We are live. What is up, fight nerds and dirty gamblers? I am Erik, and this is Erik Bets Fights. Welcome back, y'all. This is going to be my full card breakdown for, they're calling it UFC Vegas 59. It's also the Tough 30 finale, I guess, but headlined by a pretty good light heavyweight fight between Jamal Hill and Thiago Santos. That should be a fun one. I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of a recap of my bets from the last card before I jump into the breakdown here. You guys have heard me say this a lot lately. This is going to be another one where I'm going to have to go kind of quick and cut it short. I got up extra early today specifically to get this video done before work, and it took me like 2.5 hours just to get my notes finished up. I thought I had my notes pretty much ready. That's what sucks about having a terrible memory, is that not only do I have to watch fight footage, not only do I have to watch the tape, I have to type up. I usually have like 20 to 30 pages of notes on each card, and then I have to go through those notes and type them up into talking points too, so I can remember, because I have a terrible memory. So yeah, anyway, you guys don't care to hear about that, but so I'm going to be a guest tonight on Addicted to Combat's show over at, so if you haven't subscribed, go over on YouTube to Addicted to Combat. It's the number 2, so it's the word addicted, number 2, combat. Patrick over there is cool. He does some really good work. He's doing his first ever live show with a guest tonight, and I'll be his first ever guest. So I needed to get my notes ready for that. And so I've got everything ready to go here. And it's already 10 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday, and my boss has already been messaging me. We've got this project we're working on, so I'm technically supposed to be working already. So there you go. There's all my excuses why I'm going to have to do this rather quickly. But anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at my bets from the last card. UFC 277. It was a losing night. I lost 2.77 units. It technically should have only been 1.77 units because I accidentally put a 1-unit bet on Ji-Yeon Kim on here. And the reason it was an accident, you've probably heard me talk about the She's a Dog project that I've been doing, where I just blindly bet each underdog in each women's fight. I thought I was logged into the She's a Dog Bet MMA Tips profile when I added that bet in, but I wasn't. I was logged into my own. But it was only 2 hours before the event when I did that, and I had a live stream I had to jump on. Like, usually you can message the dude, Mike, from Bet MMA Tips, and he can change stuff for you if you enter something by accident. But I did it right before the event, and then I had a live stream I had to jump into, so I wasn't able to get it changed. So it should only be minus 1.77, but it's minus 2.77. But anyway, so we hit a straight bet on Alexander Pantoja. And then we hit a straight bet on Orion Kosi. So those are the 2 straight bets I got. Just like most folks, it seems like everybody was on Dante Mays there. I got him at minus 140. He closed like minus 200 or minus 210 or something. Hamdi Abdullahab came out and did it, man. He was better than honestly. I watched like almost all of his footage, and there was nothing in any of the footage that suggested he was going to fight that well. So that's why everybody was on him. You know, sometimes that happens. And I did say, I think it was can't remember if it was the Saturday live stream or what, but I do remember saying in one of the shows I did last week, I was like, I do wonder what the UFC knows that we don't. Because if you did watch the tape on Hamdi, he looked terrible. He really did. You know, and I'm not to talk crap on the guy, but he just didn't look good in his tape at all. So I was like, maybe the UFC knows something we don't, and it looks like they did, because he wasn't bad. It's not like it was a super impressive performance, and it's not like Dante Mays is a high-level guy, but he came out and you know, he had to fight through some adversity, and he stuck it out, and he fought a hard 15 minutes and got the win in his UFC debut. So that's cool. And then Ji-Yeon Kim, of course, you know, I maintain, like I said, that bet wasn't supposed to be on there, but I did have a actual bet on Ji-Yeon Kim by decision at plus 165, which I loved that bet. I still think it was a winnable fight for her. She just didn't throw punches. She just, Jocelyn Edwards did what she did in the Ramona Pascual fight and pretty much just threw kicks. And Ji-Yeon Kim just kind of hung back and let her. She just didn't let her hands go. But anyway, and then, you know, every week I say, I got to stop doing all these prop sprinkles because I lose money on it. But, you know, in the end, it comes down to, I have a super small unit size, you know, and I don't put a lot of money into this. Like, basically I have 2 betting accounts, and I put a certain amount of money into both of them when I started doing this, and I don't touch that money. I don't add to it. I don't take out. So that money just sits there. I'm not using like money that I'm making. I'm not like putting money on the line that I need for anything. It's basically like, in my mind, that money doesn't exist. So if I have a big losing night or something, it's not like I'm like, oh crap, how am I going to pay rent or something, you know? So like, and I came to the realization this week that like, if my unit size, if my bankroll was bigger and my unit size was bigger, I think I would have more success as a bettor, because I would bet very differently if it felt like money that was like a lot of money, right? Like, you know, some people put hundreds of dollars on one bet. You know, I have probably, at the most on an entire card, I'm talking like a couple $100 is how much I'm betting at the most. And it's usually not even that much. But anyway, my point being that I had a whole bunch of prop sprinkles here, and I probably wouldn't make all those. So I've had to come to the conclusion that, like, am I a serious bettor or am I a fun bettor? And I'm more of a fun bettor than a serious bettor, that's for sure. But, as I was thinking about, like, what if I was putting out hundreds of dollars on every bet? A lot of these I wouldn't have bet that one. I wouldn't have bet that one. A lot of these I just wouldn't have made. It's just because I'm just trying to have fun with it, so just something to keep in mind. If you do tail me, and I recommend people don't even, this is a good time to give my disclaimer. I am not any kind of professional gambler. I am not any kind of gambling expert. I'm just a guy who really likes MMA, really likes betting on fights, and likes to sit here in front of my computer and talk to my webcam about betting on fights. So in no way am I telling you what you should do with your money. I'm just letting you know what I am doing with mine. There are lots of sharp, consistent cappers out there that give away their information for free. If there are people, or if you are interested in tailing some of those people who have proven to be long-term consistent winners, feel free to shoot me a message on Twitter. You probably know about them already anyway, but I can give you some names of people that are good people to tail, who are consistent winners. I hope to someday be one of those people. I don't consider myself one of those people now. Sometimes I have good nights, sometimes I don't, but I am definitely still learning as I go here. Anyway, all these prop sprinkles, we did hit the Pantoja by submission at plus 350. I put 0.1 unit on Anthony Smith by sub in round 3 at plus 5,000. It showed up at plus 49.99 in here, but it was plus 5,000. Anyway, I had a big I did decide to play my big money bets. On my Thursday night show, Big Money Bets, I always give out a 2-leg, a 4-leg, and a 6-leg parlay. I did decide to play my 6-leg parlay. It didn't hit because Mays and Semmelsberger lost. And here's another example of how I would bet differently if I was playing more money. Like, I have my bets that I make early in the week that are based on like strong reads. And then I tend to, right before the event starts, I throw out some props and parlays just for fun. These 2-leg parlays at the end here, Moreno close, Kosi Semmelsberger, Mays Pantoja, those were ones. I might have had one of those in earlier in the week. I don't remember for sure, but at least 2 of those, if not all 3, were ones I threw together on Saturday right before the event started, just because I wanted more action on it. So that's what I mean about, like, I'm a fun bettor rather than a serious bettor. Is like, if I was betting as intelligently as possible, trying to get the best return on my investment rather than just having fun, really the smartest way to bet a card is, most of the time you probably shouldn't have more than like 2 or 3 bets on a card. It's really the smartest way to do it consistently, in my opinion, and from what I've seen from people who have been successful long-term, is find your very favorite spots and hit those hard rather than, shotgunning bets all over the place. So, like, yeah, a lot of the stuff that I had on here, I probably wouldn't have actually been betting if I were trying to do it the smart way. But anyway. Oh, and while we're here, had my first ever reverse sweep on Contender Series last night. And I want to say this, just for anybody who does tail me or whatever, I typically only research UFC cards. I barely have time to even get that research done. I don't know how people research Bellator and PFL and Contender Series. I barely have time to research the UFC and get my content out on that. So if you ever see me betting Contender Series, PFL, Bellator, pretty much anything other than UFC cards, I'm probably just tailing someone. So just be aware of that. I didn't do any research on that Contender Series card at all. I just tailed some folks that I know that are usually consistently pretty sharp, and the bets didn't work out last night. So just wanted to throw that out there. Not making excuses. I chose those bets. I chose to put them on my track record, but just be aware that I am not usually actually doing the research on those situations. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into breaking this card down. I already blabbed for like 10 minutes. I'll try to break this card down somewhat quickly. First fight of the night is Myra Bueno Silva versus Stephanie Edgar. Yeah, the Tapology always shows these odds definitely aren't right. It shows Myra Bueno Silva at minus 140. She's actually an underdog now. I think she's at like plus 110-ish range, plus 115, something like that. And Stephanie Edgar plus 120. I'm just going to be honest with you, like always, this isn't a fight that I feel like I have a super great read on. When I finished the tape, I was actually expecting to find Myra Bueno Silva I was expecting to find her about where she's showing here at minus 140. And simply because I honestly think Myra Bueno Silva tends to be a little bit overrated, and I think Edgar tends to be a little bit underrated. So to me, this fight is pretty much a coin flip, and I thought Bueno Silva would be favored. But at the moment, Stephanie Edgar is actually favored. Bueno Silva, she hits very hard for we don't typically see women in these lower weight classes. I mean, this is 135, so it's a larger women's weight class, but she hits very, very hard. I mean, she has legit KO power. Stephanie Edgar is a judoka who has excellent trips and judo throws in close and that sort of thing. She's good on top. She's got a nice scarf hold. She's got good submissions on the feet. I think Myra Bueno Silva will probably land the harder shots. They're both good on the ground. Myra Bueno Silva, Mara Romero Barella, that's one of the hardest names for me to say, was able to take Myra Bueno Silva down in close with like I can't even remember what it was exactly, but it was like a trip or like a judo kind of reap. And she was able to get her down very easily with that. So I think Stephanie Edgar probably can do the same. And Myra Bueno Silva is, because she is good with submissions, she's good with arm bars, she is comfortable working off her back. She will kind of keep that position. So I do think Edgar will probably be able to get takedowns here. And Myra Bueno Silva might just hang out on her back. I don't think she's going to be able to submit Stephanie Edgar. It's possible, but I lean toward thinking she probably won't. Stephanie Edgar is a good grappler and is probably going to be pretty aware of what's going on there. But yeah, overall, I don't have a strong lean in this fight. I would potentially be willing to bet on either one of them as a decent sized underdog, but I would need them to get to like plus 140 or something like that. So sometimes I don't make picks. I don't know. People like it when you make picks. So I guess I'm going to pick Stephanie Edgar by decision, but I don't know. I'm just throwing something out there. Next up, we've got Cory McKenna versus Miranda Granger. This fight, one thing that really stands out to me in this fight is simply the reach. I think Cory McKenna probably has the smallest reach in UFC history. I did some digging on this to try to figure it out. She's credited with a height of 5'3", but her reach is 58.5 inches, which if I did the math right is 4 feet 10.5 inches. Usually your reach is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of your height, but she stands 5'3" and her reach is 4 foot 10.5. So she has very short arms. Miranda Granger, on the other hand, has a 68-inch reach. She has almost 10 inches of reach on her, and she's also like 4 inches taller. So Granger is going to be a lot bigger here. But Granger doesn't really use her reach. Like, she's a fighter who, in this fight, if Miranda Granger was someone who used her reach to keep distance really well, all she'd have to do, pretty much, I'm oversimplifying, but if she just kept that jab out there, boom, 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 she could keep Cory McKenna at range and just pop her with jabs and 1-2s all night long. But that isn't really what Miranda Granger does. Miranda Granger crashes into the pocket, sometimes even kind of awkwardly. Like, she doesn't look to stay back there and hold the range and strike like that. That just isn't really her game. She has 5 wins by submission. I mean, she's a decent submission fighter, so she really isn't looking to necessarily stay at distance and strike like that. So I see that as Miranda Granger's like biggest advantage in this fight is the reach and the striking if she chose to use it. McKenna's biggest advantage in this fight is the wrestling. However, she doesn't always choose to use it either. Like, if we watch the Elise Reed fight, she did get like 3 takedowns in that fight, I think, but it was frustrating to watch because McKenna's getting popped on the feet over and over again, getting beat up, and it's like, why is she not going for takedowns? She would go for a takedown with like 20 seconds left in the round, and it's like, by that point it was too late to steal the round or potentially. So basically, I think both of these fighters have a big advantage that they could use to win the fight if they could be trusted to actually push that advantage. If Granger looked to keep it on the feet and use her reach and size, and if Cory McKenna actually looked to push her wrestling, but neither of them can really be trusted to do that. And also, if Cory McKenna does push her wrestling, like I said, Granger has 5 wins by sub. They're all against lower level competition, and I don't think Cory McKenna's ever been subbed, but even so. So Cory McKenna's a big favorite here, minus 225. I don't know that I agree with the line, but if she does come out and look to push the wrestling, I do think it's her fight to lose. And I do like Cory McKenna to win a decision here. Next fight, we've got Jason Witt versus Josh Quinlan. I'm going to keep this breakdown pretty simple. There are a lot of fighters over the years who end up getting tagged with the bad chin moniker. Like, it's like, oh, that fighter has a bad chin. But there are different levels to that. Andrei Arlovsky was tagged as a fighter with a bad chin 10 plus years ago. And he's gone on to, in his current UFC run, he's fought 24 times in his current UFC run, and he's lost by strikes only 4 times. So clearly, even if he does have a bad chin, clearly he's a guy who's been able to find a way around it, or he can take shots without getting knocked out. Jason Witt has a reputation as having a bad chin, and it's literally to the extent that the man cannot get punched. or he gets knocked out. I might be oversimplifying a little bit. I might be exaggerating a little bit, but if you catch Jason Witt with a flush punch, he gets knocked out. I mean, it's literally almost that simple. Oh, as far as the odds here, Josh Quinlan showing as -220, Jason Witt as +180. I think this is kind of a setup spot for Josh Quinlan. The thing is, Jason Witt, he's a strong physical guy. He can wrestle. If he's able to get a hold of you and get you down, he has good top control. I mean, he can win fights that way. But Josh Quinlan is exactly the kind of fighter who's going to be a problem for Jason Witt coming in. Because literally, and I don't even think I'm exaggerating to say this fight could very easily be over the first time Jason Witt is close enough to Josh Quinlan to get hit. Because like I said, Jason Witt has a hard time taking a punch from anyone. Josh Quinlan is a guy who hits very, very hard and very, very accurately. Like this fight could literally play out within the first few seconds. Jason Witt comes in, closes distance to try to clinch up, and Josh Quinlan throws one check hook that catches him and it's over. I mean, it literally could play out that way. So yeah, I do like Josh Quinlan here. I do like Josh Quinlan by knockout, probably in the first round. If Jason Witt were to win, it's likely a decision. It's likely that he's able to get takedowns and bring Josh Quinlan into deep water and just kind of grind on him on top. I did place some bets here. I bet on Josh Quinlan. Obviously, the fact that he's likely to get a knockout, the odds makers are pretty aware of that. So Quinlan by KO is only at like even money. I got Quinlan by KO at, we'll look at the bets at the end here because I can't remember for sure, but I think I got it at like -110. And I also bet him by KO in round 1, which I got at +290. But yeah, I do like Quinlan here by KO, probably early, probably even in the first round. Next up, we've got Takashi Sato versus Brian Battle. Battle's a big favorite here, -225 with the comeback on Takashi Sato at +190. I've seen people asking, why is Brian Battle such a big favorite here? Battle's pretty new. Sato has been around for a while, has paid his dues. But really, I think this fight largely comes down to volume. Let's see, I have this. Battle throws over twice as many significant strikes per minute and lands almost 3 times more. Sato's biggest issue is that he's looking for that KO punch. Brian Battle throws a lot of kicks, not as many punches. I mean, he switches it up. It varies, but he is a guy who throws a lot of kicks, but he just stays very, very busy with strikes all the time. He's keeping strikes out there. He's keeping something in your face all the time. Whereas Sato is the kind of guy who's waiting for his moment. He's trying to find that big shot that's going to put you out, knock you down, change the tide of the fight. Whereas Battle is just pitter patter, trying to stay on you. Hit, just, yeah. And, Brian Battle does also have quite a few submissions on his record. Let's see where. Oh, here's something I wanted to share in my notes here. I counted in the fight with Tresean Gore. Battle throws 17 kicks and 1 punch in the first 60 seconds. Sorry, in the first minute. So he throws about 18 strikes by my count in the first minute. For comparison, Takashi Sato attempted 34 total strikes in 15 minutes against Gunnar Nelson. He was controlled on the ground for like half of that fight. So, but even in the like 7 to 8 minutes that he wasn't controlled, he attempted only 34 total strikes. So like Brian Battle attempted half as many strikes in the first minute against Tresean Gore as Takashi Sato attempted in the entire 15 minutes against Gunnar Nelson. So just be aware of that. But yeah, I do like Brian Battle here. I like Brian Battle probably by decision. You can get Brian Battle by sub at like +400. He does have, I can't remember. I just looked at it a little bit ago. He does have, let's see. Oh, between his pro fights and amateur fights, Battle has 8 wins by submission, and Sato has 5 losses on his record. 3 of those are by submission. So I don't necessarily like Brian Battle to get a sub here, but that Battle by sub at +400 prop was just kind of interesting to me. I lean toward thinking Battle wins a decision here, just out volumes Sato for 15 minutes. So that will be my official pick, is Brian Battle by decision. Next up, Terence McKinney versus Erik Gonzalez. Obviously, the odds are out of hand here. It shows McKinney at -900. He's even -1,000 in spots with the comeback on Gonzalez at +600. What can we say about Terence McKinney? We basically know who Terence McKinney is at this point. He is an absolute handful for about 4 minutes. he's going to come out like the Tasmanian devil and look to absolutely take your head off from the second the horn sounds to start round one. He's dangerous with strikes. He's dangerous with submissions. You know, he can catch you and knock you out. He can submit you. One thing that the odds makers have caught up on here in his last fight, or not his last fight. Last fight was Drew Dober. In the Ferris Ziem fight, McKinney by sub was plus 900, and he submitted Ferris Ziem in that fight. Now McKinney by sub is like plus, it's only like plus one. I don't remember. It's plus, McKinney by sub is only plus 125 now. So yeah, they've clearly caught up on that. But so yeah, the most likely outcome of this fight is McKinney in round one, I think. That's just kind of what he does. But let's see. I have these numbers here somewhere. Oh, Terence McKinney by KO in round one is at plus 175. Terence McKinney by sub in round one is at plus 175. And if you just do Terence McKinney in round one without specifying method, that's at minus 200. So like the numbers just aren't great. You know, when you've got a guy who's a minus 1,000 favorite, even looking at his props, they're just not great. That's just the way of things. But one thing that's interesting here is that Terence McKinney has only been out of round one twice in his career. He's been to round two once against Sean Woodson. He got finished. And then round three against somebody I've never heard of earlier in his career. So the important question to ask anytime Terence McKinney is fighting is, what happens if he doesn't get that round one finish? So, you know, and he probably does. He's probably going to come out and spark Erik Gonzalez in round one. But some props that interest me here, and again, there I go trying to sprinkle props. I'm staying away from these for now, but you can get Erik Gonzalez inside the distances at plus 1,100. Erik Gonzalez to finish in round two plus 2,500. Erik Gonzalez to finish in round three was at like plus 4,000 or something. So like, and it's also a great live betting spot. I wouldn't even mess with those now pre-flop, because you can just watch the fight, and if we get to like 4 minutes into round one and Terence McKinney hasn't finished Erik Gonzalez yet, Terence McKinney is likely going to be slowing down at that point, because he goes so hard. As we move into round two, we could, you know, then we might potentially be looking at a bet on Erik Gonzalez if that happens. But anyway, I talked about that fight for too long. The fight is lined the way it is for a reason. Terence McKinney is probably going to come out here and get the round one finish. That's all I have to say about that. Next up, we've got Mikey O versus Sam Alvey taking place at this fight is at 185, I think, right? It should show me here somewhere. Latest weight, yeah, middleweight. Yep, there it is. Yeah, so they're at 185 here. Alvey's kind of been fighting at light heavyweight and sometimes fighting at middleweight. Mikey O, I've always said Mikey O is too small for light heavyweight. Every time I watch that guy fight, I'm just like, why is he fighting at light heavyweight? He's dropping down to middleweight here. This is another fight. Mikey O, it shows him at minus 550 here. He's actually more at like minus 600, minus 700 a lot of places. Sam Alvey plus 400. This is a fight where, I'm not going to lie, I didn't do the tape on this fight. Usually what I do is I do the tape and then I pull up the odds and look at them later. I already knew the odds on this fight because I had already seen them on Twitter or something. And so basically I already knew how I felt about this fight and I didn't do the tape. I was like, I'm not going to sit and watch. Yeah. I did it Yanni the Greek style. So like, should Mikey O be that big of a favorite? I don't know. But yeah, there's every reason in the world to believe that he's going to win this fight. He's basically, in a way, Mikey O is the fighter that Sam Alvey was when Sam Alvey was actually good. You know, Mikey O is a guy who isn't necessarily super technical, but he comes out and he throws very, very hard. He hits very, very hard. I guess he's more aggressive probably than Sam Alvey ever was, even when Alvey was at his best. But these guys are kind of similar fighters in that regard. Not necessarily super athletic. Not necessarily super technical, but they hit very, very hard and they can knock you out. I did put Mikey O in a parlay at like minus 600, which I normally wouldn't do. Maybe that wasn't the greatest idea, but I did it because unless Sam Alvey is able to catch him and knock him out, I just don't see how Alvey can win here. Alvey just doesn't throw enough volume. I think the fight will play out mostly on the feet. Mikey O is going to throw more. He's probably going to land more. He's going to look better overall. Alvey hangs back and waits for his spots. He can still hit you hard, but he hangs back and waits for his spots, and he goes way too long without throwing anything. I don't want to say anything more about this fight. I actually like Mikey O to win a decision here, most likely. He may be able to catch Alvey and finish him, but I'm kind of expecting Mikey O by decision. But yeah, that's all I have to say about that one. Next up, we've got Ariane Lipsky versus Priscilla Casuaera. Lipsky's slight favorite at -165. Come back on Casuaera's +135. This is a fight where I feel like the odds are pretty accurate, so I'm not really that interested in betting it. I would potentially be willing to bet Priscilla Casuaera if she was a bigger dog. I would probably need her to be at like +180 or something before I'd be willing to take the shot here. But as far as a basic breakdown of this fight, Lipsky is the more technical, more disciplined, more consistent striker of the two. She has more of a traditional technical kickboxing style, whereas Casuaera relies, she's a little sloppier, relies a little bit more on power. She's trying to get you out of there. But Casuaera can also be the kind of fighter who she's going to look to get in your face. She's going to look to bully you. She's going to look to make you uncomfortable. And Lipsky has that kind of technical style where if her opponent is in her face and kind of shutting her down, it can keep her from getting her game going a little bit. So that's something to keep in mind. Lipsky can also be kind of low volume. According to her stats, she lands only 3.3 significant strikes per minute. Casuaera lands 4.4, so a little bit more there. Yeah, I don't have much more to say about this. I do lean Lipsky to win this fight, probably by decision, just by putting out more volume, landing, just landing more punches overall. Casuaera might land some big sloppy punches that sort of knock Lipsky back and look good to the judges, but I just don't think she's going to land enough of them. However, in Casuaera's last fight against Jeon Kim, that's what we saw. Kim, I don't remember the numbers, but I'm pretty sure Kim outlanded her by quite a few strikes, but Casuaera was just landing the bigger strikes. So, that can win a fight sometimes too. But yeah, I like Ariane Lipsky to win like a volume-based decision here, basically is what I'm thinking. Next up, we've got Augusto Sakai versus Sergey Spivak at heavyweight. Spivak, pretty big favorite at -210. Comeback on Sakai is +180. Sakai's on like a 3-fight losing streak here, if I'm not mistaken, and Spivak has been looking pretty good lately. So the line pretty much makes sense to me. Spivak is a guy who is a very good grappler at heavyweight, and we don't often get that. We don't. It's cool when a fighter comes along who is a very grappling based fighter who's live to find submissions at heavyweight, because we don't, like I said, we don't see that often, and Spivak absolutely is that fighter. He's capable on the feet as well, but for the most part, he's going to look to clinch up with you, look to drag you to the ground. I think this fight largely comes down to whether Spivak is able to do that consistently and whether he's able to keep Sakai down on the ground long enough to find a submission, or even a TKO on the ground, or potentially all 15 minutes to a decision. But I think he probably finds a stoppage here. One thing to keep in mind is that Sakai will be the bigger guy. Sakai's a big, thick dude. I mean, he's probably going to have 20 pounds on Spivak or so, but I don't know how much that's really going to matter in the end. I do like Spivak to be able to drag Sakai to the ground and probably find a submission here. Next up, we've got Juliana Miller versus Brogan Walker. I did not watch this season of Tough. I was not really familiar with these fighters at all until I watched some tape on them to prepare for this week. So just letting you guys know that. Don't really know much about these two besides the tape that I watched. Miller, a slight favorite at -140. Comeback on Walker, +120. Brogan Walker she seems very powerful and very physical, but she just doesn't throw that much from what I watched. And like I said, I didn't dig back that far. I just watched a little bit of tape on these two, but she's very tight. She's very aggressive. She's got that look where she's in your face and she's moving forward, but it's almost like a dog that's all bark and no bite, right? She's looking like she's coming for you, and you're going to be in big trouble if she hits you, but then she just doesn't hit you. So that's kind of Brogan Walker, whereas Juliana Miller is a little bit the opposite. She's not necessarily all that powerful or physical, but she throws with reckless abandon, and she throws a big long jab, and she's very aggressive with it. She can get really aggressive with her strikes because she doesn't mind if she ends up on the ground, including on her back, because she's good off of her back. She's also good at just kind of like sliding out the side and finding a scramble and getting to a better position if she's in a bad position. She doesn't mind going to the ground, and she doesn't mind how she gets there or where she ends up when she is there. So Brogan Walker is the better striker here technically, but Juliana Miller tends to be the more aggressive striker. So I do like Juliana Miller here. It's not a confident read, especially, these are both pretty low level, don't have a ton of experience. It's a fight that I'm going to stay away from and use this as an opportunity to just learn a little bit more about them. But if I had to pick, I guess I'm going to pick Juliana Miller. She does have a lot of subs on her record. I don't necessarily like her to find a sub here, but I'm going to go with Juliana Miller by decision in this one. Next up for the tough heavyweight title, or not really a title, but tournament championship. That's what it calls it right there. We've got Zach Pauga versus Mohammed Usman. These guys as well were fighters I wasn't really familiar with. I've seen Mohammed Usman fight before. I don't think I'd ever seen Zach Pauga fight before I watched the tape for this one. Pauga's a decent sized favorite at -235. Come back on Mohammed Usman at +200. As far as a basic technical breakdown here, Zach Pauga is a small guy who should not be fighting at heavyweight. He's at least a 205er, if not a 185er. In fact, I think if this guy went to the UFC PI, worked with a nutritionist, if he wanted to, I don't know why he would want to, but I'm just saying, in theory, I literally think the guy could probably make 170. He's not that big of a dude. He fought Marcus Perez, UFC veteran Marcus Perez, who typically fought at middleweight. That fight was at light heavyweight, and Pauga was quite a bit smaller than Marcus Perez, who had traditionally been a middleweight. But anyway, Pauga is he's quite a bit, partially because he's the smaller guy. He's quite a bit quicker. He has better footwork, better movement. He throws faster punches. He also throws straighter punches. He's the more technical boxer of the two. Mohammed Usman is more so one of those guys he's looking for the KO. He's winging big hooks from his pockets. He's winging that big overhand and big hooks. He's trying to get you out of there. Whereas Pauga is a little bit more of a buttoned up technical boxer who's looking to land straight punches on you. Both guys can grapple, a little bit. I mean, both guys will look for takedowns at times. We may see some of that. I'm expecting the fight to mostly play out on the feet, I guess, but we may see some grappling. We may see some wrestling. I don't know that either guy is going to have a huge, I don't expect either guy to necessarily come out and just throw a blast double and get the other one down. And, I don't know that either one's going to necessarily be able to take the other one down easily. And I don't know that we'll see them look to go that route a whole lot anyway. But I do like Pauga here just as the quicker, more athletic, more technical striker. I just think he's going to throw more. He's going to land more. His punches are going to get to the target quicker with, he throws his quick, snappy, straight punches, whereas Usman kind of loads up on those big winging hooks. Usman is potentially live to find a KO here. If Usman wins, it's going to be by KO, I think. But I think a more likely outcome here is Zach Pauga by decision. And there's a prop on Zach Pauga by decision at +150. I haven't bet that, but that's a spot that I kind of like because I do think that's the most likely outcome here. Next up, we've got Vicente Luque versus Jeff Neal. This should be a fun fight. Luque at -170, Neal at +145. I finished the tape on this fight kind of feeling like that line was pretty accurate, so I stayed away from it. But I've seen a lot of sharp people saying that they feel like this is a great line on Vicente Luque and that this is a great bet. So it is a spot that I'm kind of considering. And I think, and I guess that makes sense, even though I finished the tape feeling like this was pretty accurate. If you think about it, like what's Jeff Neal's path to victory here? KO or potentially a striking based decision, most likely, right? Whereas Vicente Luque is live for a KO, live for a decision, also live for a sub. I mean, we sometimes forget that Vicente Luque is a venomous grappler. What he's won two. I can never remember. Has he won two of his last three? Well, the way I've got things set up here, I'm not going to be able to look it up right now because I've got all kinds of crap on my screen. But anyway, he's won by, well, he beat Michael Chiesa by Darce in round one, right? And he beat Tyron Woodley by Darce in round one. And those were just a couple of his most recent fights. So he's definitely capable of that sort of thing as well. Sort of how I explained, not to the same degree, but sort of like how I explained Pauga versus Usman, a little bit of the same read here. Luque is, I think, the tighter and more technical striker. Whereas, Neal is a little bit wilder, a little bit looser, kind of loads up and throws big power a little bit more. Luke, he likes to apply pressure. He keeps a high guard. He likes to back his opponent up, keep his opponent uncomfortable. He switches stances a lot. Basically, if you can't find a way to hurt Vicente Luque, to get him off you, to get him off his game, he's probably going to beat you. That's the kind of fighter that he is. Neal is kind of light on his feet, uses a little bit more movement than Luque. He might have faster hands, and he might be a little bit more dynamic, but I think Luque is, a little bit more disciplined and a little bit more technical with his striking. And like I said, Luque is also a legit submission threat. So yeah, it makes sense to favor Luque here. You can get Luque by sub at plus 525. Like I said, I'm trying to stay away from some of those props, but I thought that was an interesting one. But yeah, minus 170. The more I think about it, I do think that's a pretty good line. I'm probably going to end up betting Luque here. I haven't yet, but yeah, I do like Luque here. I don't really have a strong read on how it happens. Could be a decision, could be a knockout, could be a sub. Yeah, that's very helpful, right? Could be any of those. Yeah, so I'm not going to try to give you a read on how it goes, but I think Luque probably gets the win here. And finally, the main event of the evening at light heavyweight, Thiago Santos versus Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill. Should be a cool fight. Jamal Hill, favorite at minus 270. Come back on Thiago Santos, plus 220. I do have a bet on this fight. Actually, I'm pretty heavy on Hill. I've got a bet on him straight up. I've got a bet on him inside the distance. I've got him in a parlay. If Jamal Hill loses, you'd think I'd learned my lesson with putting too many eggs in one basket from when Holly Holm fought Ketlin Vieira. If Holly Holm had won that night, I would have won like 12 units. But because she lost, I lost like 5 units. It was a big swing because I had her in a whole bunch of stuff. So it's usually not that great of an idea to load up on a fighter that much where they're going to make or break your whole night. But that's kind of where I'm at with Jamal Hill here, because I do think that this is a great fight for Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill has 2 inches of height, 3 inches of reach, 7 years of youth, and as far as we know, 2 good knees, which Thiago Santos does not have. My basic breakdown for this fight, Thiago Santos is 38 years old. Like I said, I think he had surgery. What did he have? Surgery on both of his knees? I'm not even entirely sure, but he definitely had some knee issues after the John Jones fight. I just think Santos is still dangerous, but he's not as explosive as he used to be. He doesn't cover distance as quickly as he used to. Like I said, he's 38 years old. I think he's kind of on his way out. Whereas Jamal Hill is kind of the future of this division. He's on his way up. He's only 31 years old. He's got better movement. Like basically at this point in their careers, Thiago Santos is a guy who tends to kind of load up on big strikes, and Jamal Hill's the kind of guy who's a little bit quicker, a little bit lighter on his feet. I think he's going to be able to see when Santos is loading up, and he's going to be able to counter those situations. Like if we look at the Thiago Santos versus Magomed Ankalaev fight, a lot of times Ankalaev is like letting, when Santos is throwing his combo, he's like letting Santos throw his combo. He's like keeping himself out of range, just kind of letting Santos throw his combo. And then when it's done, just countering it. Just like, okay, yeah, do your thing. And boom. I think Jamal Hill can do the same thing. One concern that I do have is that sometimes Jamal Hill, if you watch him closely, sometimes he'll have little moments where it seems like he's getting a little bit overly hungry and a little bit overly aggressive, where he's kind of going for it, but then he kind of realizes it and he'll sort of slow down and chill out a little bit. That's really the only way I can see him getting in trouble with Santos here, is if he goes a little too crazy for the finish or something like that and he's not protecting himself and gets caught. But I don't think that's going to happen. I do like Hill here a lot. I like Hill. If I have to make a specific prediction, I'm going to go Hill KO round 3. But I do like Hill to probably find the finish, probably in rounds 2 or 3. So yeah, that's what I'm leaning toward. Hill KO round 3. Let's go ahead and take a look at the bets that I've got so far for this card. Like I said, I do. I've got 2.65 units to win 1 on Jamal Hill at minus 265. I also put Hill and Oleksiejczuk, Mikey O in a parlay. Like I said, I don't know if it was smart for me to be putting Oleksiejczuk at minus 600 in a parlay, but I do think he's going to win. It's really hard for me to see him losing that fight, so I went for it. Went pretty big on that one because I do think both these guys should win pretty handily. I went 4 units at minus 171. Hill wins inside the distance at minus 140. I did 1.4 units to win 1. I also parlayed Hill in battle at minus 103, put just 1 unit on that. And then I've got Quinlan by TKO in round 1, half a unit at plus 290. Quinlan by TKO 1 unit at plus 100. I'm going to try, after I've been losing, like I said, lost 5.5 units on Contender Series last night, lost 2.77 on the last UFC before that, lost 1.45 on Contender Series. Yeah, like I'm not doing great. I'm on a little bit of a rough run here. So what I ought to do, I feel good about the bets I've got on this slate right now. I should just sit back and be like, cool, that's going to be enough, rather than adding a bunch of props and parlays and losing. But we'll see. We'll see what I decide to do. I don't know, but I do feel pretty good about what I've got going on right here. Anyway, folks, that is going to do it for this week's breakdown video. I got to get off here and actually get to work and do my job where I actually make money. But yeah, as always, thank you so much for watching, folks. I hope you'll take a moment to like this video. Leave me a comment down there. Let me know what your favorite bet is on this card, whether it's a prop, whether it's a money line, whether it's a parlay, whatever it is. What's your favorite bet on this whole card? And if you haven't yet, please subscribe right here to Erik Bets Fights on YouTube, and also subscribe to Never Hedge Media on YouTube. I put out content in both of those places. You can find me on Twitter at Erik Bets Fights, on Instagram at Erik_Bets_Fights. I'm always happy to, shoot the crap. I don't know. I never know if I should swear on YouTube, especially when these videos are monetized on Never Hedge. But anyway, if you ever want to just talk about MMA a little bit or discuss bets or whatever, feel free to find me on Twitter. I'm on Twitter all the time. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. As always, I am Erik with Erik Bets Fights, reminding you to play it smart, play it tight. I haven't been doing that myself, but it's time to start, and let's grow those bankrolls. Have a great one, everybody. I hope you enjoy the fights this weekend at UFC Vegas 59.